What's up? This is Natalie, and I'm here to talk to you about some Unity basics. Okay, so here we are in the Unity editor looking at the default view for the editor windows. And I took you guys through this before, but anytime you need to get back to this view, you can just go to Window, Layouts, and click on Default. So this is what you'll see when you open the Unity editor. And now you want to work on putting objects in your game. So a couple things to notice are we have the scene window in the middle of the screen here. I can tell I've got the scene open because I look at the top here and the tab for the current window I'm looking at is the scene tab. To the left, I've got the hierarchy. On the bottom, I've got the project. And on the right, I've got the inspector. Behind the scene, the game window is visible. This is what you see when you play. And then behind the game window is, of course, the asset store. Now I'm going to return to the scene here and see about pulling some objects out of the project window and into my scene. So first of all, I'm going to move myself back to the scene as we know it by clicking and dragging. I'm using the hand tool to do this, and to find the hand tool, I can come up here to this top menu and click in the upper left-hand corner. It turns into a little magnifying glass when I've clicked on it, and then when I click off of it, I see a hand. So when the hand tool is selected, I can just click and drag with the regular mouse button and the scene will move around. If I want to instead spin what I'm seeing, I can click and drag with the right mouse button. So that pans through the scene. And then clicking and dragging with the left, the regular mouse button, while I've got that hand selected again, moves the scene around in front of me. Now, I can zoom out using the mouse wheel and zoom in. And if I want to move around in here as though I were moving around in a first-person shooter like Fortnite, I can hold down on the right mouse button and use the W, A, S, and D keys to go forward, right, left, and backwards. This can be helpful if you want to zoom in on something. And then, of course, you let up on all the keys when you've gotten where you want to go. Now, if I want to pull something new into my scene, I'm going to have to find it in the project window. This window at the bottom contains all of the files in your game. So if you download something from the asset store, once you've clicked download and import, that asset is now located somewhere in your project. The key is to find where. There are a few different ways you can locate assets you've downloaded and imported. One way is to look here on the left and just start unraveling these nested folders. What I look for when I'm unraveling nested folders is a folder called prefabs. Prefabs are predefined game objects that I can drag into the scene, and they should work right off the bat. So here we've got some prefabs in this park folder, and I can see this nice grid of objects. Looks like these are going to be exactly what I need. So once I see a grid of objects like this in a prefabs folder, all I need to do to load an object into my scene is to click, drag, and drop it into my scene. I can move that out of the way by using the Move tool. That's up here. It's this plus. I can rotate it by clicking on this circular arrow icon here and dragging. And then I can also scale it up and down with this Scale tool, which is up here as well. Those are the three that you really need when you're organizing an environment. Now, if I can't find something in here, but I know I've downloaded it, I have a couple of things I can do in the project window to make this easier. One option is I can use this search bar here. So say, for example, I had downloaded a fence. I'm going to type the word fence, and any assets contained within the project labeled with the word fence will be shown here. So here's a fence asset. If I try to drag it in and I don't see anything, there may be something else I need to do to configure that object to work, which would mean likely it's not a prefab. I'm going to try that one. That's my prefab. That's obviously the piece that I want. So another thing you can do to make this easier for searching is this little tiny thing down here right at the bottom, this little circle slider. If I slide this all the way to the left, I'm going to get a list with blue cubes next to the game objects that I need. But if I drag it all the way to the right, I can see pictures. So when I'm looking for pictures of game objects that I want to use, it's always going to be better to drag this all the way to the right. Cool. So keeping in mind that if I type something in here, and then I want to go back to the view that displays everything, I do need to delete any letters out of that search bar. So a few things to keep in mind here. Once again, if you're looking at the game, you can't drag in objects here, and you'll see this circle slash icon reminding you that what you're seeing is the game view, which is what players see when they're playing the game, and not the scene view. So if you find yourself encountering this icon, it's pretty certain that that's the situation you're in, and you can easily return to your scene by locating the scene tab and clicking on it, or once again, Windows Layouts Default. When you do land in the default scene, you saw it earlier, the view is a little bit different than where I was originally, and you'll need to use your resources that you've learned about how to move in the scene to locate yourself back in the center of your environment. This takes some practice and manipulating the mouse, and don't get worried if it doesn't work out for you the first time. It's always just about spending a few hours meticulously dragging and moving things until you get them set up and you can see them exactly the way you want. One final bit of advice, anything that's contained here within the scene is also listed out in this hierarchy on the left. So the difference between the project window at the bottom and the hierarchy on the left is the project contains everything you could put in your game, and the hierarchy contains everything you have put in your game. So if I click on something in the hierarchy, you can see it's highlighted here in the scene. If I go down to the project, let's go back to our traffic assets here. These aren't in the scene yet, but I could put them in the scene by dragging and dropping them in. So that's all for now. If you have questions about that, don't hesitate to let me know. I can clarify, I can help you out, and get some practice, lay out a scene, and let me know how it goes.